Alrighty, so just got done watching Henry Cejudo versus Aljamain Sterling, the main event of UFC 288. And man, what an incredible fight that was. Of course, Henry Cejudo coming out of retirement to face the champion Aljamain Sterling. These two guys had a lot of back and forth before the fight, but it was pretty clear, if you look at both of them, that they understood it was going to be a challenge, right? There was a lot of shit talking, of course, but it was obviously going to be a challenge. Henry Cejudo, as good as he is, was never going to go out there and run through Aljamain Sterling. Aljamain Sterling, even though he is the bigger guy, he's the more physical guy, and he is the champion, he was never going to go out there and just run through Henry Cejudo. They're both too skilled, right? And when you have two guys that are equally skilled and they know exactly what they're doing, they have championship experience, they've been doing this for a while, it is going to be a test for both of them, and that is exactly what this fight was. In the first round, it was pretty goddamn clear what Aljamain Sterling's game plan was, and that game plan has remained quite consistent throughout his career. He loves overwhelming his opponent, and he does it. Again, we talked about this in the lead up during the fighter showcases. He has a very chaotic style of striking. Well, it looks chaotic to us, but I'm pretty sure that he has a method to his madness. A lot of stance switching, which of course doesn't allow you to settle. You being the opponent doesn't allow you to settle and plan your attacks. The fact that he would throw shots, he'll throw one, follow up with another, switch stances, go again and again and again. It doesn't allow you to set up your own shot. Doesn't allow you to get going. And he was doing a very good job of that against Henry Cejudo, which is very smart because Henry is the kind of guy that does his best work when he's moving forward. And Aljamain Sterling is also very similar. Neither of these guys are backwards fighters. They're not a Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, for example. They're not an Israel Adesanya who is extremely comfortable fighting off the back foot. These guys do their best work when they're moving forward. And so the whole entire thing with this fight was going to be who can control not just where the fight takes place, but also the pacing of the fight. Henry is the sort of fighter that's a bit more calculated, not just a bit more, but way more calculated than Aljamain Sterling. Henry is a planner. He is a mastermind. He's very cerebral. He likes to, plan his attacks before he goes. If you watch his fights against the likes of Demetrius Johnson, his win against Dominic Cruz, for example, you can tell he's a thinking man. He analyzes what's going on in front of him, then he comes up with a response. Aljo, understanding that, did not want to fight at Henry's pace. I think if Aljamain would have fought at Henry's pace, which is the slow, methodical pace, he wouldn't be able to keep up with Henry. Henry is too smart. So Aljo did a very good job from bell to bell of keeping up a high work rate. And the benefit of that high work rate is even if you're not landing significant shots, you're still touching your opponent, right? It's the Nate Diaz and Nate Diaz style of striking where they're constantly hitting you with something, right? It's the Marab Dvalishvili style of fighting where there's something constantly happening. There's barely any downtime in between actions. It's one action into the other, into the other, into the other. And it just doesn't give you, the opponent, a chance to do your own thing. And so, of course, when you're facing someone that's fighting in that way, the best response is for you to pressure them. Because even if you can't control the pacing of the fight, if you can make them back up, right, it's going to give you a bit of control because they're backing up. And so Henry, being the smart guy that he is, made that adjustment. You saw him go from backing up too much to the cage to standing his ground a little bit, right? And Aljamain also had this thing that he would bluff, right? He does that a lot where he fake charges. And the fake charge is designed to get you to back up, right? He fake charges, you back up, he closes that distance. He fake charges again, you back up, he closes distance. Next thing you know, your back is against the cage. Henry started to recognize those fake charges, and he did a very good job of standing his ground, right? He was also standing very upright, which is a very good stance to have if you're trying to not get yourself bullied. If you're here, right? Especially if you're a smaller guy, If you're a smaller guy and you fight super small, it's gonna be very easy to bully you, right? Like the Chad Mendez style of like shelling up and getting into your shell, as opposed to the Conor McGregor style where like you can make your frame look a lot bigger than it actually is with the way you stand. You stand a bit more square, you open up your shoulders, you stretch out your arms, and you end up looking bigger than you are in there. And it helps. It helps with standing your ground when the opponent is trying to pressure you. When you open up like a freaking, what is that animal that makes themselves look bigger? You open up like that. It really helps. So as the fight was going on, I was trying to score it, but I'll be honest, bro. Like I lost track. It was a very competitive fight. Very competitive fight. In the first round, Henry Cejudo was able to get a beautiful takedown. You would think this man wrestled in the Olympics for Greco-Roman wrestling, even though he did freestyle. It's his upper body stuff is, you would also think he has extensive experience with judo. Like his upper body takedowns are incredible. So he got Aljamain Sterling down in the first round. Alja was able to return the favor. In the second round, I believe Aljamain got him down again. I don't remember exactly who got who down in what round. It's still all fresh in my mind. But there was a lot of like grappling exchanges, and you saw that there was a clear advantage when it comes to takedowns in the middle of the cage, right? The advantage definitely goes to Henry Cejudo. Henry does a much better job of getting takedowns against the cage. But when the fight ended up against the cage, right, you see a clear advantage to Aljamain Sterling. And I always talk about how the cage is very similar to the ground, right? When you have somebody flat against the cage, right, that's when size and strength actually comes into play. And it can kind of diminish skill a little bit. Like when John Jones was pinning DC against the cage, and you hear DC talk about how like John was just weighing on him, and he was heavy, and he was gassing himself out like that. Hell, freaking Randy Couture, he made a career of pinning guys against the cage and gassing them out there. That's where the size advantage actually plays out. It's very similar to the ground, right? One of the best positions on the ground to get somebody tired is half guard. If you get somebody flattened out in half guard, chest to chest, they're carrying your body weight for long, extended periods of time. You can gas them out in that way. Now, of course, on the ground, you have gravity on your side, right? Against the cage, you don't have gravity on your side, but it's very similar, especially when you start like lowering your opponent's head and you start gaining height against them. Then you can really lean on them, right? You have the cage as a barrier right there, pinning them. You have your body weight directly on top of them. And Aljo was doing a very good job of that against the cage. He will get Henry Cejudo to the cage, and with the cage, he's able to drag him off the cage and take him down. The fight was very close, man. The striking, Aljo definitely had the advantage because of his activity. Henry, in my opinion, had more quality with his strikes, even though it was less infrequent. It was less frequent, I should say. And bro, it kept going like that, man, until the fifth round. Till the fifth round, it was pretty goddamn clear that Henry Cejudo had to do something. He had to let it all out. He had to empty the gas tank. He tried. He did his best. He got a beautiful takedown against Aljo in the fifth round. But after all that, it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough. It was a split decision win for Aljo. 48-47. 48-47. Two judges gave that to it was a split decision win for Aljamain Sterling. Overall though, the fight definitely played out similar to like how it should. I think it played out how it should. Both of those guys, like I said, they have very similar skills when it comes to their grappling, right? Aljo favors the back. He's one of the best back takers in MMA. Everything he does leads him to the back. He wants to get your back. He wants to get your back. Henry Cejudo loves the front headlock. He was using that a lot in the fight. The only difference is that Aljamain Sterling, he's quite tricky, with the turtle. He will get turtle and he will stay there and he will get on like all fours and when Henry goes to hit him, he gets back down to his knees and turns himself into a grounded opponent. He was playing a very, very good tactical game with Turtle. And Turtle is a very good position if your goal is to stand back up. You saw the likes of Alexander Volkanovski use Turtle over and over again to stand back up against Islam Makhachev. If you guys are into grappling and you want to learn a lot about Turtle, definitely check out Craig Jones. Check out his instructional on using the Turtle position to get up. It's very valuable if you want to get into MMA, to know how to use Turtle to keep yourself safe from guillotines, and keep yourself safe from getting your back taken as well. So overall, man, it was a really, really fun fight. I really enjoyed it. I personally think the right man won the fight. I scored the fight for Aljamain Sterling as well. I think his activity levels, his striking, I think he was a tad bit more tactical where it mattered. He knew exactly when to start moving and using footwork and, and coast a little bit. And of course, his size definitely played a role in this fight. So I think the right guy won. I wonder what this means for Henry Cejudo. He talks about if he's not first, he's last. Of course, Aljo has Sean O'Malley enter the cage, and they have this intense face-off, and they're talking shit to each other. Henry talked about how his plan was to defeat Aljamain Sterling, move up to 145, and face Alexander Volkanovski. I don't know. Hey, dude, to be honest with you guys, man, I know that Henry just literally lost to Aljo, but am I the only one that wants to see Henry Cejudo versus Volkanovski? Am I the only one? That's a good fight. Like, in my opinion, man, fuck all that. I know he just lost, but hey, man, if you put him in there against Alexander Volkanovski, I will not be mad about it. I will not be upset. Like, Volkanovski needs new blood anyways, right? So, anyways, I'm going to leave it at that. Let me know in the comment section what you guys thought about the fight, about the card. Bilal Muhammad going out there and outstriking Gilbert Burns, and y'all are still refusing to give that man his respect. Oh, man. Anyways, like I said, let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below, and I'll see you guys later. Thanks for watching, boys. Peace out.